Hello and welcome, and thank you to all of the magnificent participants who join us here tonight. I am extremely honored to welcome you to this webinar. I'm so proud to be the person presenting this fabulous presenter. We have a privilege today, ladies and gentlemen. Everyone has a privileged person that they know that does everything well. And for me, that person is Karem Espino. Karem Ospino, MSA, is a Latina entrepreneur, financial strategist, and advocate for small businesses, success, and Latina leadership. She is Colombian, first generation born, and the founder and CEO of Ospino Consulting since 2004. She empowers entrepreneurs with financial clarity and strategies for sustainable growth. With over 20 years of experience in accounting and finance, she has built a nationally recognized firm, has been named one of the top 50 accounting services practitioners by the US and by Woodward in 2023 and 2024. Beyond her expertise in controllership, FP&A, and CFO services, Karem is deeply committed to the Latino business community. She serves as vice president on the Lupe Fund, a nonprofit that is dedicated to educating and empowering Latinos, of which we also share an allyship. She has and helped organize the Power of Latinas Conference, Elección Latina, and driving greater political and economic participation. She also mentors Latino entrepreneurs through the statewide Hispanic Chamber of Commerce of New Jersey. She is a graduate of Stanford University's Latino Business Action Network program. And additionally, she serves on the board of the First Bergen Federal Credit Union, supporting financial literacy and accessibility. She has been recognized by Odyssey International Award of Excellence. Karem has also formed a magnificent part of the community where she has been named in many cultural affairs, not only as a proud Colombian woman, but as an example to many in the North Jersey tri-state area. She is here to shape the future of business, finance, and leadership. Ladies, I would like everyone on this call to please hold your applause, but welcome the one, the only, the incomparable Miss Karem Ospino. Welcome, Miss Karem. We are so proud to have you at the Montclair Alumni Women's Initiative presenting Navigating Load of Debt in Times of Crisis. And I'm sure everyone here can identify. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, my friend, Miss Karem Ospino.
Thank you, Dr. Baral. I think I need to hire you. That was lovely. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for being here tonight. I know it's a Tuesday after a storm. It hasn't been easy for some of us, but here we are, and I really appreciate it. I really appreciate that you made the time to be here tonight. And a special thank you to the Montclair State University Women's Initiative Network for hosting this webinar and for bringing us together. This is very, very important for us as women, as community, as humans. My name is Karem Ospino. I'm the founder of Ospino Consulting, and I do work with business owners who feel overwhelmed by their finances and want more clarity. Now, that doesn't only apply to businesses, it also applies to our personal finances. And that's what we're gonna be talking about tonight. I'm gonna share my screen. If you bear with me just a second. There we are. So if you can please give me thumbs up. I don't know if I can see the thumbs up. Yes, I can see the thumbs up. Thank you. Okay, so today we're talking about loan debt and more importantly, how to feel steadier when things are uncertain. This is not about fixing everything today. It is about understanding where we are and what decision comes next. There we are. Okay, good. So by the end of this session, my goal is simple. I want you to feel more educated in your financial reality. Know your financial obligation. Know which financial obligation deserves your attention first. Understand what kind of decision you're facing next and feel confident about how to move forward. Not with answers, but with direction. That's going to be key tonight. You're going to find direction on what to do next with your financial obligation. Now, many of us are living through changes right now. Income changes, many layoffs happening, expenses, the cost of living, it's higher, expenses change, life changes. Maybe somebody has a family member that it was the breadwinner and now is sick. So that makes a change, a huge one. And then when that happens, that can feel heavier, even if nothing actually changed on paper. You might have the same debt, the same loan, the same amount, but when that event in our lives happens, then definitely everything feels daunting. That usually makes things harder, not for the debt itself, but because we don't see clearly. So clarity helps us feel more confident, not because things are perfect, but because we understand what's going on. And this is key here. It's not because we're going to find perfection on what we're going to be doing tonight. It's because we're going to understand what's happening with our financial life. And that's going to give us the clarity that we need to move forward. I want to be clear about something. This session is practical, it's judgment-free. So there's no shame here. This is about orientation, not perfection. This is not personal financial advice. I'm not selling anything. And this is not a space to compare yourself to anyone else. This is really a space for your own clarity. So you can find that information that you need to make a decision in your life. When things feel uncertain, our brain reacts. That's normal. We feel pressure, we feel rushed. We want to make fast decisions. We have the sense of urgency. Or sometimes we just decide to avoid a decision completely. And again, that's normal. However, clarity gives us a space. It slows things down so we can respond instead of react. And that's super important when we're in those moments of constraint or urgency. I want to share an idea that guides my work. Financial leadership is not about knowing everything. It's about orientation. It's about knowing where you are, even if you don't know where you're going yet. When you are oriented, decisions feel less urgent and less scary. And then for that, clarity doesn't just appear. It's not a magic wand. Clarity comes from a simple sequence. And I want you to take a look at this slide because this is going to be the backbone of this presentation tonight. And I would like to walk you through the clarity path that we can all take to better understand our financial situation. This includes 4 steps. First is awareness, seeing what's there. Then accuracy, understanding what's true. Then priority, choosing what matters the most. And finally, decision, choosing how to move forward. As we go through these, keep this question in mind. What decision is this clarity preparing me to make or delay? So these 4 steps, again, are the backbone of the clarity path. I'm going to repeat them: awareness, accuracy, priority, and decision. So we're going to start with the first step. which, it's when things feel stressful, we often want to jump straight to fixing. That's a human reaction. Today, we're not doing that. Today, we're assessing first. Assessing just means asking, where am I really? That's the question. That question alone can reduce a lot of pressure. It's understanding where we are. It's creating that awareness. So at the beginning, Lauren asked you to please get a piece of paper and a pencil, a pen. And it's because we're gonna go ahead and do an exercise. What we're gonna be doing is a financial position snapshot. So this exercise is very simple. Here, we're not budgeting. This is not detail. And this is not about being exact. I just want you to take a quick snapshot. It's a quick picture of your finances. So if you have that piece of paper and pen, I want you to do something for me. On that piece of paper, you're gonna write down your monthly income, which is the money that comes into your household. Okay. It doesn't have to be exact numbers. It's what you have in your head. You don't have to go looking for any documents or papers. And then you're gonna write some regular expenses that you have. Some monthly expenses. It could be rent. It could be the mortgage. It could be anything that is recurring in your household. And you also gonna write down, the minimum debt payments that you may have. I understand that there might be too many. So for the sake of this exercise and time, just say that we're gonna identify the 4 largest payments that you need to make every month. And you can definitely, take a picture of this slide, and then you can do this exercise later at home with more detail. But today, I just want you to take the time just to practice it a little bit. And, approximate numbers are fine. The goal here is visibility, no solutions. So I want to give you like 2 minutes if it's possible, and then you give me a thumbs up, whoever, finished this, because I want to tell you that, when you write down your income and then you have your expenses and your debt payments, you can actually realize how much money you have left, which is your accessible cash. So if you please do the exercise now for just 2 minutes, quickly, money coming in, some of your regular expenses, you don't have to list them all, and the minimum debt payments that you may have. And if you can give me thumbs up when somebody finishes, so we can continue with the purpose of the exercise. Oh, somebody finished already. That's good. Okay. So what you do with that information is your monthly income, you're gonna deduct your monthly or fixed obligations like your rent or regular expenses. And then you also gonna deduct those debt payments. And then what you're gonna have at the end, when you have your monthly income and you deduct those 2 things, you're gonna have the accessible cash, which is the cash that you have access to every month. Now, I want you to take another 30 seconds to analyze what you're seeing when you look at that paper. I know we cannot properly interact on this format, but definitely I want you just to look at it. You don't have to respond anything, just take a look. And what I want you to do is to notice your reaction when you saw that. Maybe you notice that you have accessible cash left, or maybe you notice that you are at 0, or maybe you notice that your income is not enough to cover your expenses. So take a moment to notice what came up for you. Many people realize that that uncertainty feels heavier than reality. Sometimes everything is in our head and we struggle with that. We get stressed out by that. But then when we see things clearly, that often reduces the pressure, even if the numbers aren't perfect, I gotta say. So, I know we cannot interact, but then maybe later I can see the Q&A. But I would like to hear about what you notice when doing this exercise. And I do hope that you have a better picture in your mind and feel more confident about it. Because, this will help you stop guessing and really help you start making decisions based on your current situation. So that is the second step. Remember, the first one is awareness, to realize where we are. The second one is accuracy. So you get the accuracy when you write down what your income is, what your monthly expenses are, and what your minimum debt payment is every month. That will give you information so you can prioritize and make decisions. That being said, here is something very, very, very important. Not all debt is the same. Some debt creates pressure, some create stability, and another one creates maybe opportunity. For instance, if you have a student loan, that's debt, but that gives you the opportunity to improve in your career path. So it's not the same as having, let's say, a credit card debt. However, we tend to stress out when we see debt. Some people don't even like getting into debt because we get stressed. But just remember that stress is a signal, not a judgment. So when we separate things, instead of lumping them together, we regain control. This helps you see that not everything needs attention at the same time. So I want you to think about this, because that's going to bring us to our next exercise. So on that piece of paper that you wrote down your income, expenses, and your debt, I want you to take a look at it. And now what I want you to do is, you're going to map the debt. This exercise will help us with the priority step. I want you to choose just 2 loans from your debt. Remember, your debt is what you owe to a bank or a credit card or any personal loan, or it can be a car loan, any debt that you have with any bank or financial institution. So I want you to just choose just 2 loans, not all of them, just 2. And I want you to notice how stressful each one feels right now. Just notice whether it feels more like a burden or more like a support. Don't overthink this. Your first instinct is usually enough. This is about clarity, not fixing. So I want to be clear about why we're doing this way. We're not choosing the loan that is the best on paper. We're choosing the loan that is taking up the most space in our mind. So when we do this exercise, it's kind of like an X-ray of what is in our brains, and now it's on paper. And that exercise will release that space from your mind and that concern that keeps you awake maybe at night. So when we're choosing that loan, that keeps bothering us, that uses our energy, or even that you're not paying yet, like, student loans. Sometimes we take on the student loans and we go through our careers and then it's accumulating interest perhaps. So I want you to just look at them. And then when you're making a decision on which one am I gonna be looking at first, I want you to start with the loan that bothers you the most, the one that it's making more noise. And that will help you narrow your focus, not on carrying everything at once. You might have a lot of debt, but this will help you prioritize or choose which one is the one that really it's creating that heavy weight or that heavy lifting in my brain, and it doesn't let me feel comfortable or relaxed in my daily life. Now, stress might be high or low, and the loan might be a burden or an opportunity. So sometimes having a mortgage is just, the possibility of having a shelter, a house, and that might be an opportunity, and you might have low stress. Or if your mortgage is very high, the monthly payment is very high, or the amount of the loan is very high, that might create higher stress, even though you have the opportunity of ownership. So just notice, this is just about noticing. This is not about resolving anything yet. So based on this, I want you to reflect on the loan that is making the most noise. And after doing that, I want you to answer this question to yourself. My first priority financial decision is, and then that will be the loan that worries you the most. Not the hardest one, not the loudest one. And, the one that it's, the one that if you clarify would quiet your mind the most. This help you know what deserves your energy right now. And also it will help you to understand what can wait. So this prioritization will help you to ease yourself into what comes next. So just quickly, you saw them, you identify how heavy it is in your mind, and then you choose. Remember, priority helps you decide where not to spend your energy. So what I want you to do is for the next 30 days, you don't need to think about everything. Clarity often comes from letting some things wait. And I know that maybe from a financial perspective, sometimes that's odd, but trust me, it works. So now that you prioritize which loan is the loudest, it's the one that is making the most noise, it is time to make a decision. So remember the first exercise that you did when you saw your income or the money coming in minus your expenses or your debt? At the end, you had a result. You had a result that, having some cash left, or maybe zero, or maybe your income is not enough to cover your expenses. So most people fall into one of two categories. If you have some cash left, you are on the first category. If you don't have any cash left after your expenses, you might be on the second category, that, people that feel financially constrained. There's no right or wrong here. It's really, clarity comes from knowing where you are in. And this help you choose the right kind of next step instead of reacting. So I'm just inviting you to see it from a different perspective. If something shifts in your life, you just need to understand what is your scenario, where are you financially, and then based on that, is that you're gonna make your decisions. So if you have any flexibility, so if you have access to cash after you deduct your expenses, your decision might be about focus. Maybe you're gonna make extra payments on that loan that is bothering you the most, or maybe you need to revisit with the bank if it's gonna reduce your interest rate or your principal, and also you wanna talk to them and ask, what happens if I prepay this loan? Do I have any penalties for doing this? So this isn't about doing more. It's really about choosing wisely. This is when you are in the first category, when you have some access to cash after your expenses. Now, if you are on the second category, okay, when things feel tight or a little bit unstable, the goal here is finding breathing room. This usually starts with a conversation. I don't want you to think that because you don't have any cash left, because your situation changed, you don't have an option, because you do. So in that case, you need to start that conversation with that financial institution that it owns, that you owe to, that you had the loan with, and that conversation it starts with by asking questions. Do you have any hardship options? Do you have any forbearance period? Can the timing be adjusted? What happens if nothing changes in a month or two in my situation? So the goal here is really to understand the options. Imagine that you have a change on income and one loan is starting to feel super heavy. And instead of avoiding it or panicking, you decide to call the lender and you just say, my situation has changed and I want to understand what options might be available for me. That conversation alone doesn't fix anything, but yes, it will tell you what's possible. And then once you know what's possible, the pressure usually goes down. And when the pressure goes down, you are really relieved to make better decisions. Usually when we make decisions in an urgency moment, they're not the best decisions. So you really need to have the information and you need to have the knowledge about, what are your possibilities. Now, a decision doesn't always mean action. And this is also very, very important because sometimes the decision is to pause. Sometimes the decision is to gather more information. And any of these can be a responsible choice. I want to remind you of something important, that is, even if you are in a tight spot, it doesn't always mean that you don't have any options. Many banks and lenders have options and people just don't know about it because the only way to find out is by asking. So you can maybe renegotiate the payment terms. Maybe you pause the payments for a short time. Maybe you can adjust the scheduling of your loan. And in some case, you may have a part of your balance forgiven or reduced. Now, this is not always, right? And it's not for everybody, not for everyone. But sometimes that could be a possibility. So the key point here is that you don't need to assume that you don't need to assume the answer before you ask. You don't need to assume that the bank is going to say no to you before you try. So I just want you to understand, okay, this is my financial snapshot. I decided that this is the loan that I want to tackle first because it's the one that is really bothering me or making more noise or making me feel more stressed out. And now let me just ask questions, to my lender. And then based on that, you decide to act on it or not. So the homework that I have for you is that for the next 30 days, choose how you'll hold this decision. You might either act with confidence, pause without guilt, or seek clarity before deciding. This is about posture, not speed. This helps you stop thinking about the same decision every day. And I understand that sometimes when our financial position changes or is not in our favor, the phone calls, the stress, the constant, I don't know, text calls from the lender might be overwhelming. But that's when you need to actually pause and then have that clarity and then really say, okay, this is what I need to do next. So the commitment is that it's really for the next 30 days, choose how you want to do this. Now, when you understand where you are, even if right now you're not on a tight spot, even if right now you have some cash left, some access to cash, remember that reactivity responds to pressure and planning prepares for change. So even if now your situation is stable, there's nothing to worry about, and things are just perfectly fine, I will invite you to plan. So, what would happen, creating a scenario, what would happen if things change? So leaders don't rush, they create space to decide. And that's something that I have learned throughout all these years that working with business owners. It's really creating that space for decision making that helps you to go to the next level or to take the next step. And one thing that I want to tell you, it's clarity is not one moment, it's a habit. So checking in regularly, focusing on one decision at a time, asking what decision needs my attention now, that's important. And that needs to have a cadence. It needs to have a change of behavior habit to make it regular in our lives. I think most of us were not taught about how to manage our finances or what to do with money or how to behave with money. And depending on your upbringing, sometimes even borrowing money is scary for some people. I know many people that decided never to own a house because they just didn't want to have a loan. And that's okay. It was their decision. But if you have loan debt, if you have some type of obligation that is inviting you to be here tonight, my invitation to you is really to create a habit to regularly check in, do that financial snapshot. You don't have to be a financial person to do it. It's just income minus your expenses. See what you have left, then analyze on that debt that you have, what is making you feel stressed, or what is really getting your, you know, robbing your sleep at night. And then based on that, you can research what you can do with that. And then you can decide whether to act on it or not. But it's something that you can either, on a monthly basis, you don't have to obsess about it unless you're going through, some tight spot right now. Frequency matters just to make sure you're taking care of things. But in a regular, or in the moment that you don't have that tight spot or that you feel more flexible, definitely it will be a good practice to have. And I want you to remember that confidence is not positive thinking. Confidence comes from being prepared. So when you understand your options, the pressure really goes down and you can see clearly. You can identify things that you probably didn't see before. So your only commitment today is not action. It's really a new shift in mentality. So for the next 30 days, my invitation to you is to choose to either decide, to pause, or to seek clarity, to ask questions. And that it's really enough. Now, what you should take with you today, it's really, know which financial decision deserves your attention. Know whether you're deciding, pausing, or gathering clarity. Know what kind of next question or conversation this decision invites you to have or to do. And then taking ownership of your finances. This is a way. And just remember that there's no, if there's one thing that you really want to remember from this presentation, is that uncertainty does not demand perfection, it demands presence. So you need to do this yourself. This is not something that you delegate to somebody else. It's really you taking ownership of what your situation is, having that awareness, reviewing the accuracy of your situation. When we put things on paper, we really identify that sometimes things are not as bad as we thought, because our mind try to play tricks sometimes. And then it will give you that breathing room to prioritize and then to make a decision. And with that, I want to say thank you for taking the time to be with me. And I would love to stay connected. And most importantly, be kind to yourself as you navigate your next decision.